Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Night was falling on the isolated base, enveloping the buildings in near total darkness. The guards, used to monitoring comings and goings, were nervous that evening. A figure approached, its steps quick, but something seemed different. "Halt!" shouted one of the soldiers. The man stopped, raising his hands. But before he could explain anything, panic and mistrust took hold. The guards pounced on him, striking him to the ground, unable to discern his true identity. Each blow echoed in the silence, shattering the icy night air. The man's face remained impassive, but his eyes shone with quiet authority. The guard saw only an intruder, a weak man, at first glance. They almost laughed at their superiority, thinking they were in control of the situation. Then, a metallic clang, a badge struck on the ground, catches the attention of one of the men. A detail they had overlooked in the confusion, a symbol of authority, a rank that never lies. Fists clench, eyes widen. The moonlight now illuminates the damaged epaulette, revealing a symbol none of them would have imagined, that of a U.S. Army general. Time seems to stand still. Their hands tremble, fear replaces aggression. The one they thought was weak, vulnerable, is in reality one of the most powerful men in the army. And in that icy silence, only one thought crossed their minds: how could they have been so wrong? The heavy silence lasted only a few seconds, but they were enough to shatter the guards' confidence. Their fists fell slowly to their sides, and each of them felt fear creep in. The general rose with calm grace, wiping a trace of blood from his lip. His eyes, cold and piercing, scanned the room, assessing the situation. "Who gave you the order to attack me?" he asked, in a voice that commanded as much respect as fear. The guards, unable to answer, looked at each other. None wanted to be the first to admit their mistake. The patrol commander, visibly pale, finally stammered. We thought it was an intruder." The general raised a hand, cutting off any attempt at explanation. "You thought you were attacking an intruder? You struck a general on active duty. Do you understand the gravity of your mistake?" An icy tension settled over the room. Each guard felt his heart pounding in his chest. One of them tried to justify himself. "We followed the protocol." The general shook his head. "Protocol is nothing without discernment. You endangered the lives of others, and your own could have been lost if things had gone wrong." Then, slowly, he took a more official identity tag out of his pocket, bearing his name and rank: General Alexander Harrington, U.S. Army. The guard's eyes widened again. The initial panic had now given way to pure astonishment. "You will accompany me to headquarters immediately," the general ordered, his voice firm and authoritative. "And believe me, every mistake you made last night will be examined, and punished if necessary." As they lined up behind him, silent and trembling, the general walked with a confident, imposing, almost untouchable stride. But behind his calm, a question burned in his mind: why was this alert triggered? And who wanted me to be attacked tonight? That night, the base would never be the same again. The guard's mistake had triggered a chain of events whose consequences no one had yet grasped. At headquarters, General Alexander Harrington settled into his office, still on high alert. The guards who had struck him sat a few feet away, heads bowed, aware that they had just narrowly escaped disaster. But Harrington, despite his suppressed anger, had something else on his mind: to understand who had orchestrated this attack. He picked up his secure phone and contacted his most trusted contacts within the military. The information arrived quickly, but nothing matched the incident. No official order justified the alert that had targeted him. This could only mean one thing: someone on the inside had manipulated the situation. Harrington frowned and stared out the window. The base seemed quiet, but he knew the unseen enemy could strike again at any moment. He stood and took a few steps in his office. Every movement, every breath, was calculated. Suddenly, a young officer entered, visibly nervous. "General, we've checked all the cameras and security logs. Someone has falsified identities and security protocols to trigger the attack." Harrington froze. His eyes narrowed. Fake. That means someone here wanted to neutralize me without triggering a direct alarm. And they used my own men to do it. The general sat down again, but his mind was already racing. He had to find the traitor, and quickly, before another incident occurred. He knew this wasn't a simple oversight, it was a calculated plan, a maneuver to weaken his position and sow chaos in the ranks. Harrington then called his most trusted deputy. Assemble a team of my trust. We're going to trace every move of this attack, every order given, and every person who may have been manipulated. And no one is to know that I'm conducting this investigation, not yet. As the team prepared, the general felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew that the danger was now closer than ever, and that he only had a few hours to uncover the truth before everything changed. General Harrington advanced with measured steps down the headquarters corridor, his boots echoing on the metal floor. His eyes scanned each face, each officer, searching for any suspicious detail. He knew that the traitor was among them, hidden behind a mask of loyalty. In the control room, his trusted team was reviewing the videos and communication reports intercepted during the night. Harrington carefully observed the images, guards who had behaved strangely, signals that seemed innocuous but which, put together, formed a disturbing pattern. "Look at this," said one of the analysts, pointing to a screen. One of the guards received an encrypted message just before the attack. And it was erased from the main system. Harrington approached, his hard gaze fixed on the screen. "Who sent this message?" he asked, his voice low but firm. "We don't know yet," the analyst replied, "but the number is internal. Someone in the database orchestrated all of this." The general felt his blood run cold. This confirmed his worst fears, the attack was no accident. Someone on the inside wanted to trap him, test his vigilance, and prepare something bigger. While he was thinking, another officer rushed in. "General, we've intercepted another message, it mentions your name and a specific location off base, in less than 24 hours. Harrington frowned. He stood up abruptly, determined. "Prepare a discreet escort. We must be ready. And no one must know that we know, not yet. This time, we'll strike before they do." In the tense silence of the control room, everyone understood that the real danger didn't come from the enemies outside, but from those hiding in the shadows, among them. And the general knew that every move would have to be calculated down to the millimeter, otherwise, this conspiracy could cost far more than his life. Day was barely breaking over the base, and yet General Harrington was already on the move. His footsteps echoed through the silent corridors, his determination palpable in the air. Every officer he passed was observed, every glance analyzed. He knew that the traitor was cautious, but not invincible. In his office, he had an additional surveillance system installed, concealed behind panels and secondary screens. The cameras were calibrated to detect the slightest suspicious movement, and internal communications were monitored in real time. Harrington knew he had to act without alerting the enemy. "We're going to simulate a confidential operation," he announced to his most loyal team. "A transfer of sensitive documents. The traitor will think that's our weakness. We'll wait for his reaction." The trap was simple but effective, to create an irresistible temptation, a lure credible enough that whoever wanted to attack would betray themselves. A few hours later, when the base seemed calm, a suspicious movement was detected. An officer, who had appeared loyal until then, was discreetly slipping away toward the warehouse where the sensitive documents were supposed to be. Harrington observed every gesture via the screens, every breath, every hesitation. "It's him," Harrington murmured, his eyes fixed on the monitor. "Get ready, but let him make the first move." The officer reached the documents, took the decoy, and sent an encrypted signal from a hidden terminal. Immediately, Harrington activated a device that locked all exits and triggered a silent alarm in the general's office. The traitor had just trapped himself. Harrington entered the warehouse, calm but menacing. The man froze when he saw him appear. "General. I can explain everything," he stammered. "Yes," Harrington replied in an icy voice. "But before that, you're going to tell me everything you know. And believe me, It's best for you to be completely honest. In the shadows, another intercepted message appeared on the surveillance screen. Harrington felt a chill. The conspiracy went far beyond a single traitor. And this was only the beginning. The captured officer sat trembling on a metal crate, unable to meet General Harrington's icy gaze. In the warehouse's silence, only the hum of surveillance screens and the man's labored breathing broke the air. "Speak," Harrington ordered, his voice firm and implacable. "Who gave you the order? And why?" The man swallowed hard. I didn't know it was you. I thought it was an official mission." His voice broke, but Harrington showed no mercy. "An official mission?" repeated the general, his eyes piercing. "Explain to me exactly who is pulling the strings." After a few seconds of silence, the man gave in. He revealed a name, but Harrington immediately sensed that it was just a pawn in a much larger game. The traitor hadn't acted alone. Several high-ranking officers, infiltrated into different branches of the army, were coordinating an operation to destabilize his position and compromise national security. Harrington closed his eyes for a moment. He knew that what he saw before him was only the tip of the iceberg. If this conspiracy was real, it could reach spheres of power that no loyal officer suspected. "Very well," he said finally, opening a drawer to put the officer in. "You will stay here. And I will have to strike quickly, before they realize we know." He left the warehouse, his determination intact but his mind on high alert. Every step he took resonated like a silent warning. The battle was only just beginning. Back in his office, Harrington examined the intercepted information, communication cards, contact lists, coded messages. Each clue pointed to a complex network, ready to strike at any moment. He understood that to thwart this conspiracy, he would have to go beyond protocol, beyond customary loyalty, and trust only those whose loyalty was absolute. And while he was analyzing the data, an encrypted signal arrived on his terminal. A single sentence. "You are being watched, and it's too late to back out." Harrington felt a shiver run down his spine. The conspiracy wasn't just internal, it was everywhere. Night was falling on the base, but General Alexander Harrington's mind was on high alert. Every sound, every shadow could be a clue, every movement a trap. He knew the conspiracy was progressing faster than he thought, and that remaining passive would be fatal. He gathers his most trusted team in a secure room, away from prying eyes and ears. "Listen to me carefully," he says, his voice firm but low. "We don't know all the players, but we know the network is vast and infiltrated at every level. Our mission is simple: identify the masterminds, neutralize them, and secure critical information before they strike." He unfurled a detailed plan on the table, a mix of electronic surveillance, infiltration, and manipulation. Harrington's trusted agents were to act as bait, while leaving controlled traces to trap the conspirators. Every move was calculated, every communication monitored. "The time has come to take action," Harrington announced. "And remember, no one can know what we're doing, otherwise, everything will be lost." A few hours later, the operation began. Teams infiltrated sensitive areas, discreetly interrogated suspicious officers, and analyzed every intercepted signal. Harrington oversaw everything from the control center, his eyes glued to the screens. Every indicator, every anomaly, could reveal the true identity of the mastermind behind the conspiracy. Suddenly, an encrypted signal appeared on a terminal. The information showed an unusual movement of a high-ranking officer toward a location outside the base. Harrington understood immediately, this was the crucial moment. The man thought he was out of reach, but in reality, he had just fallen into the general's trap. Harrington stood up, his gaze hard and determined. "Prepare the response team," he ordered. "It's now or never. And nothing and no one is to warn them." As the agents took up their positions, the general felt the adrenaline surge. He knew every second counted, that the slightest misstep could jeopardize everything. But for the first time since the beginning of this conspiracy, he felt he held the initiative. And in the shadows, another player, far more dangerous and still unknown, was watching, ready to counter General Harrington's move. The real battle was only just beginning. Night enveloped the base and its surroundings, but in the control center, Harrington remained motionless, his eyes glued to the screens. The response team advanced silently, coordinated, each move perfectly calculated. But Harrington knew that the conspirators were cunning. And that an ambush could arise at any moment. A few minutes later, an alarm sounded. An unauthorized vehicle was rapidly approaching the outdoor site. Harrington felt a shiver run down his spine. The mastermind of the conspiracy knew there would be a trap. "Prepare yourselves," he ordered. "Do not fire before my signal. Assess every movement." The agents concealed themselves behind structures and vehicles, watching the approaching vehicle. Suddenly, shots rang out from the surrounding bushes. The conspirators had anticipated the trap, and a confrontation erupted immediately. Harrington remained behind the control center, coordinating every move and issuing precise instructions to avoid casualties. During the confrontation, an intercepted signal on a terminal revealed a crucial clue, a code name linked to several communications with the conspirators. Harrington frowned. The name was unexpected and dangerous, someone he would never have suspected within the military hierarchy. The vehicle was eventually disabled, but the conspirators managed to escape into the surrounding forest. Harrington knew this was just the first obstacle, a warning that the conspiracy would strike harder and smarter. He addressed his team, his voice cold but determined. This isn't just some executor. This is the mastermind behind this operation. We have to find him before he strikes again." As he analyzed the data, Harrington sensed the gravity of the situation. The battle was no longer just for his safety, but for the entire stability of the base, and possibly the U.S. military. And in the distance, in the shadow of the forest, the mastermind of the conspiracy watched, preparing his next move. Dawn was barely breaking when General Harrington climbed into his armored vehicle, determined to pursue the conspirators. The evidence gathered the previous night revealed a pattern. They hadn't left randomly, but were heading towards an isolated site, far from any conventional surveillance. "Prepare secure communications," Harrington ordered his deputy. "Every move must be coordinated. We cannot afford a mistake." The response team spread out around the perimeter, using drones to monitor every inch of ground. Harrington, focused, analyzed the information in real time. Every detour, every stop made by the conspirators, revealed a little more of their strategy and their final destination. Suddenly, an intercepted signal on an encrypted channel caught his attention. A recurring name, never before heard in official communications, appeared in every transmission: Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Steele. Harrington felt a chilling tension. The name belonged to a respected officer, but his involvement in these messages suggested he was the mastermind behind the attack against him. The general ordered a strategic maneuver, to surround the site before the conspirators arrived. Each agent was to remain discreet, avoid any premature confrontation, but be ready to act instantly. As the enemy convoy approached, Harrington activated the final coordination. Drones filmed every movement, and ambush teams positioned themselves to neutralize any fleeing combatants. The tension was palpable. One wrong move, and the entire operation could fail. Harrington watched the screens, his icy gaze fixed on the site. "Steele, you thought you could play in the shadows. But that game is over," he murmured, knowing that the confrontation with the mastermind of the conspiracy would determine the outcome of all this chaos. And as the convoy entered the trap, Harrington sensed that the most important, and most dangerous, battle was finally about to begin. The enemy convoy entered the area Harrington had meticulously prepared. Every turn, every obstacle had been anticipated, and every agent was in position. Harrington observed from the mobile command center, his heart pounding but his mind completely focused. Suddenly, the main vehicle stopped. Behind the armored windshield, a familiar face appeared: Marcus Steele, a respected lieutenant colonel in the army, and now the proven mastermind of the conspiracy. Harrington felt a mixture of rage and satisfaction. Finally, the traitor had revealed himself. "Steele!" Harrington yelled into his secure microphone. "It's over. Surrender immediately." Steele gave a cold, almost mocking smile. "General Harrington. I was expecting you. His voice resonated with an icy calm, as if this whole scheme were just a game to him. You think you can stop me? Can't you see everything is already in motion? Harrington grimaced. Steele was right about one thing: the conspiracy was larger than anticipated, but the general refused to back down. What you have orchestrated ends here and now, he replied. Your accomplices are surrounded. You are isolated. An electric tension mounted. The officers surrounded the vehicle, ready to intervene, but Harrington knew that a single wrong move could trigger a catastrophe. Steele, meanwhile, was playing for time, observing every movement, searching for an opening. As the general advanced toward the vehicle under cover, an intercepted message revealed crucial information. Steele had planned an escape route, a plan that could allow him to disappear and continue the conspiracy elsewhere. Harrington understood that he had to act quickly. Prepare the targeted neutralization, he ordered, his voice icy. And this time, there is no room for error. The wind seemed to freeze in the clearing, the silence oppressive. The two men faced each other, each aware that the slightest move would determine the outcome of this conflict. Harrington knew that the confrontation with Steele would be the most dangerous and decisive of his career. And in this palpable tension, one last unexpected element emerged. Steele made a quick gesture, revealing a hidden weapon, and the battle broke out. The wind whistled through the clearing, carrying with it the electric tension of an imminent confrontation. Steele, armed and ready for anything, stood behind the armored vehicle, a chilling smile on his face. Harrington, implacable and focused, advanced cautiously, each step calculated, each gesture anticipated. Last chance, Steele. Harrington shouted. Give up, and you might still have a chance in court. Steele sneered. Justice, he replied. You don't understand anything, Harrington. Everything I did was necessary. And now you're just an obstacle. Before Harrington could react, Steele made a swift movement toward his weapon. But the general, anticipating the move, executed an agile leap behind an overturned vehicle, narrowly avoiding the shot. The agents surrounding the area opened fire on Steele, but he moved with almost supernatural precision, using every bit of cover to stay out of range. Harrington knew this duel wasn't just physical, but strategic. Every move counted, every second could be his last. He took a deep breath, analyzing the terrain and his enemy. Then, with surprising speed, he leaped forward, disarming Steele in a precise and controlled movement, throwing him to the ground. Steele groaned, surprised and angry, as Harrington held him firmly to the ground. That's it, Steele. You won't be manipulating anyone anymore. At that point, the agents secured the site, and the intercepted communications revealed the rest of the conspiratorial network. Several accomplices attempted to escape, but Harrington and his team neutralized every threat. The sprawling and complex conspiracy had been dismantled, and its mastermind had fallen. Breathless but triumphant, Harrington stood up, observing the controlled chaos around him. The general knew that victory had come at a price, but the security of the base and the stability of the army had been preserved. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the clearing, Harrington gazed at Steele and thought, it's never over, but today, I won this battle. With calm restored, but the shadow of vigilance still present, the general turned to his team. Back to base. We have a lot of work to do to clean up the traces of this conspiracy. And remember, in this line of work, there's never a break. And as the sun slowly rose over the horizon, Harrington knew that this victory was just a new beginning. A few weeks after the arrest of Marcus Steele and his accomplices, the base was gradually returning to calm. Loyalist officers were resuming their duties, security systems had been reinforced, and procedures reassessed. But for General Alexander Harrington, the calm was relative. Sitting in his office, Harrington watched the sunlight filter through the blinds. Images of the confrontation with Steele flashed through his mind, every move, every decision, every tense second. The victory was clear, but vigilance remained his constant companion. An encrypted message arrived on his secure terminal. Harrington opened it and frowned. There was no explicit threat, but the mere fact that someone in the shadows still knew his movements was enough to remind him that the war against the conspiracy never really ended. He stood up, placed a hand on his deputy's shoulder, and said, "We have won this battle, but there will always be someone to test our loyalty, our vigilance. Our duty never ends." As he stepped out onto the base's terrace, the fresh dawn breeze brought him a taste of newfound freedom, but also the lingering shadow of danger. Harrington knew his role went far beyond immediate victory: to protect, to anticipate, and always to stay one step ahead. General Alexander Harrington, triumphant but never complacent, looked up at the horizon. The conspiracy had been dismantled, the traitors neutralized, but in the shadows, new threats still awaited. And in this apparent calm, Harrington smiled slightly, ready for what would come next.